Something else I wanted to discuss as well was the article that Joe Brolly wrote in the Irish Independent during the week about Jim McGuinness. So as you'll see there, it was a tweet from Joe Brolly. In 2010, Jimmy told his squad their mission was to break Tyrone and Mickey Hart. They did exactly that, breaking them and dominating Ulster. Now his mission is to break Derry. If I were Mickey, I'd be putting in a call to Loud. And when you go through the article, to quote what Joe Brolly said, he said, "Trust me when I say that Jimmy's primary goal now is to break Derry. It will be an obsessive, relentless pursuit for him, obliterating everything else in his and his players' lives. Drink, socializing, women, men, confectionery, mobile phones, all of it is gone." And then he also says, "All that is left in their world is Hart and Derry. Nothing exists except the first round of the Ulster Championship in Celtic Park. The dark destroyer of Gaelic football is back. A new strain of the McGuinness virus is about to be unleashed. If I were Hart, I would be putting in a call to Loud." So we expected a lot of animosity, all right, between Derry and Tyrone. But according to Joe Brolly, there's going to be a huge amount of animosity between Derry and Donegal. And yeah, I suppose Joe Brolly's very outspoken here about Jim McGuinness. What was your take on that?
It's actually funny because in the middle of college and things like that, like when I get bored, I usually watch YouTube. But I started actually watching RT player documentaries, and the documentary I came across with Gaelic Games was Jimmy's winning matches in 2012 with Donegal. And I actually watched that, and even at the start, Joe Brolly coincidentally was in that documentary, and he said he watched Donegal's first training session in 2011 under Jim McGuinness, and he said it was almost like an army camp. Players were nearly vomiting everywhere. It was kind of like the players kind of didn't expect this type of intensity. And these sorts of players are kind of thinking the same thing now. The likes of Oisin Gallen, the likes of Kieran Thompson, Niall O'Donnell, Michael Langan, they're exceptional players, exceptional quality. But they're going to be in a large, hard winter in many ways in December, January before the Cork game. It's going to be a huge year, I think, for Donegal in general, because you look at even the year after, the year before Jim McGuinness took over in 2010 with Donegal, they got hammered by Armagh out pillar to post in Crossmaglen. And what Jim McGuinness did was erase that from their memories, and he said, "We're going to be Ulster champions" to every one of the players. He's that kind of a motivator. And Joe Brolly seems to like him as well. And the fact he said, like Joe Brolly said, that if I was Mickey Hart, I'd go to Loud, I think that's a bit far in general, because Mickey Hart, in his first year, let's not forget, he'll get them Derry players roiled up as well. Let's not forget, okay, Mickey Hart did well with Tyrone, and he wanted to get a further test and things like that. He went down to Loud, Division 4, nearly got them to Division 1. He got them to a Leinster final. He's that kind of a manager as well. He's a kind of manager that, grains it into their player, success into the players for the work goal, no matter what the quality. Same as Jim McGuinness. So I think it's just going to be an intriguing battle in the quarterfinal of the All-Ireland Championship. And I think actually Mickey Hart might be on the right or end of the stick to Jim McGuinness. Okay, Jim McGuinness is in Division 2. It's a tough division, but Mickey Hart, week in, week out before that, is going to play against Dublin, Kerry, Galway, Mayo, Roscommon, Monaghan, all in the space of a few weeks. Tyrone as well, let's not forget. So I think Mickey Hart is in a good state coming into the Derry job. He has the players at his disposal now. All he needs to do is grind it into them that we're going to win another Ulster Championship, and we're potentially going to go for an All-Ireland crown. Whereas with Donegal, it's hard to, like, okay, Jim McGuinness has worked miracles. Even in that Jimmy's Winning Matches documentary, check it out if you haven't already. It's a brilliant documentary on how he rose that Donegal team from the ashes, really, losing that game across McLean to eventually 2 years later win the All-Ireland, playing one of the most revolutionary styles of football that we've ever seen in the game. But this is another test at its own level, because you looked at Donegal last year. Yes, there was bright sparks. They beat Monaghan. They had a good performance against Derry themselves, but and they beat Clare as well. But they lost to Down. They got hammered by Tyrone. They were terrible in the league last year. So I think Jim McGuinness has a lot more work to do than Mickey Hart does. So to say that Mickey Hart will be crying back to Loud, I think that's a bit far for Joe Brolly. But then again, it is Joe Brolly. He's a bit over the top sometimes. Well, not sometimes, but You get my your drift there. But yeah, I just think Mickey Hart is in a good state. Could be into the dairy job with Jim McGuinness. He is a redeemer after all, but he still has a lot of work to do with this group of Donegal players. There are quality there, but the performances last season, Jimmy will have to fix them before even thinking about Mickey Hart and Derry and potentially an All-Ireland title.
Yeah, no, like I think we've seen Joe go over the top with multiple articles down the years, even some of the stuff he said about Mayo down the years. Like I know we've been quite critical of Mayo ourselves in the past while, but I think he's nearly took it a bridge too far. And even with this as well, it's probably a little bit wild. But like why it caught my attention as well is I just found it so hypocritical in many ways, because like he was the same man who was lauding Rory Gallagher and jumping around and dancing in the stands when Rory Gallagher won Derry and Ulster Championship. And like Rory Gallagher's football is Jim McGuinness 2.0. Like when Rory Gallagher was in charge of Derry, you know, like, and to be calling Jim McGuinness the dark destroyer of football, like, you know, like looking his football probably wasn't the most prettiest when he was in charge. You know, it definitely wasn't. I remember being there, Crow Park, Dublin Donegal, the 2011 All-Ireland semi-final, and I don't think anybody knew what was going on in the game at half-time. It was like, goodness me, what have we watched? I've never seen anything like it, and still have never seen anything like it. But I do think it's quite hypocritical from Joe Brolly at the same time to be calling Jim McGuinness the dark destroyer of football, whilst at the same time, obviously, we all know the scenario with Rory Gallagher, but in terms of the footballing element of it, he was lauding Rory Gallagher when he was in charge of Derry because of, obviously, he won Ulster Championships when he was in charge of Derry. So, yeah, it's, I suppose, a little bit hypocritical maybe in some ways.
Maybe, yeah. But then again, he did call Jim McGuinness. Yeah, Rory Gallagher, he's a brilliant manager, but the thing is, he was a brilliant coach too. And Jim McGuinness had him in 2012, let's not forget. And he was probably the big man in changing Donegal's fortunes, as well as McGuinness. And he wasn't mentioned much in the documentary, no, but he was a guy that implemented a load of systems in the Donegal players' heads. He's not there anymore now. So that's another test for Jim McGuinness in many ways. And like Mickey Hart, I don't guess, like, didn't he say Mickey Hart was revolutionary in the 2000s, team of the decade as well? So
yeah, I'm pretty sure he did. Yeah.
So, you know, that's another thing as well. But it seems like as if Joe Brolly kind of joins the crowd whenever there's hype going up. And there was hype going up about Jim McGuinness's appointment. There's hype up about, so far, his training sessions apparently with the Donegal team and his speeches. And the players are not going for interviews and things like that. And it's almost like a drill camp, like it was in 2011. And it's almost like Joe Brolly forgets what Mickey Hart has done with Tyrone and Louth. So, like I just think he kind of jumps on the bandwagon a bit too much. Like even the Mayo stuff, like a lot of people are saying it online as jokes and stuff like that, like Gaelic crack and things like that. And Joe Brolly jumps on the bandwagon and, you know, berates Mayo. And he does it with every county, really. Like in every county. Like if you haven't been on the rear end of Joe Brolly's criticisms as a county, then, you know, where are you, simply because he's gone after Kerry, he's gone after Cork, he's gone after Dublin in many times, I'd imagine. He's gone after Mayo, he's gone after Galway, he's gone after Donegal at times, Tyrone, his own county, Derry, light now today, Antrim, Down. Like, he's gone after nearly every county as far as I watched football. That was since 2008. So that's a load of counties. Kildare, Meath, it's a load. Monaghan. Look, that's off the top of my head. No, there's bound to be more. So Joe Brolly is the kind of guy that kind of irks county fans in many ways, and he's trying to get a reaction off them. Even that comment about Mayo a few years ago about him being the biggest time wasters in Gaelic football, that was a bit far. Well, not a bit far. Well, way too far. To my liking. But like, that's what Joe Brolly is. He's entertainment. People like him because of entertainment, but I just feel nowadays that he's off RTE. He kind of jumps on the bandwagon a bit too much. And that's just my honest thing on Joe Brolly. I'd love to have him back in RTE. You know, RTE's getting a bit stale now, and Joe Brolly would be bringing back on there, you know, to add a bit of entertainment in many ways. But I just feel he's getting on the bandwagon a bit too much, and he's probably looking at the Jimmy's Winning Matches documentary and probably thinking the same thing's going to happen as 2011.
Yeah, like, no, I would agree. Like, I'd love to see him back on some sort of television. Like, I think he is very entertaining. You don't know what he's going to say next. And even when I've listened to him on podcasts and stuff, I listened to him on the Tommaso O'Shea podcast in the build up to the All-Ireland final. And it was a little bit wild, to be honest with you, because he just kept going down so many rabbit holes. He just didn't know what he was going to say next. And I remember it was a couple of times where it was nearly like Tomas was nearly, I think he just wanted to tell him to shut up. He was like, can you just, pipe it down a little, because he just kept going on and on and on. Yeah, it was very funny. But yeah, like, what did you make of the story around Jim McGuinness as well? Like, about the whole thing of he's looking to build a wall around his team's training camps to keep the media out. And as you've said before, there's been a few leaks of a few other things going on in regards to training. And I think someone else was saying that apparently they've booked out camps up in the mountains somewhere in up the north somewhere. So yeah, like, it's intense preparation. And look, I mean, Jim McGuinness is I tell you what, he's really going all out for this.
He is. He definitely is. And the first step for Donegal is to get out of Division 2. And he'll be targeting that game against Cork in Ballybuffet. And it just epitomises how much Jim McGuinness wants this. That he's putting the game in Division 2 on a Sunday for the lowest county geographically in the country, all the way up to the very north of Donegal. That just epitomises how much he wants this, how much he wants to get off the ground running. But the thing is, and I'm not saying Cork will beat Donegal now, but if it all goes pear-shaped in that match, what will the reaction be? That's what will test the mantle of these Donegal players. And to be honest, the media stuff, the building of the wall, the no media conversations, whatever, it doesn't surprise me. It literally does, because of what went on in 2011. And even in 2011, when the media was there, and I remember that game in particular, Donegal and Antrim in the Ulster Championship, and Pat Spillane was saying that Ryan Bradley, I think, on the man of the match. And to be honest, he said Ryan Bradley won a kind of a petty award because nobody was up for man of the match. And that fight with RT that Jim McGuinness had, he's very defensive of his players, and he's very defensive against the media if it involves his own team. So I'm not surprised that he's building a wall. I'm not surprised that there's a media ban, whatever, because like, there was a lot of criticism for Donegal in 2011. But then again, didn't that criticism bind them together even more? And didn't that drive them on to All-Ireland success in 2012? So there's some elements to that to think maybe the media kind of helped them in a way. But you never know. But to put a long story short, I'm not surprised that it's kind of like that camp. As Joe Brolly said in 2011, it was almost like a training camp back then, and I'd imagine it's almost like that now. And the first game of the league will tell an awful lot. And I will say this, the fact they're taking Cork all the way up to Ballybuffet shows their intentions.